Uh, Thank you so much. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining today's talk. And my name is Vipin Rathi, and I'm a chair for Telecom Special Interest Group. And along with me, Nima is here. He's a vice chair and an important member for Telecom Special Interest Group. Uh, so I want to start some introduction about what we are doing and who we are uh, what we are proposing in these kind of SIGs. This Hyperledger Telecom Special Interest Group started in 2019 to discuss these business level conversation about telecom use cases in the blockchain industry. Also looking into some kind of reference architectures so that we can provide some support to the community in terms of reference architecture and reference implementation. And this SIG is supported by Linux Foundation, Hyperledger, Linux Foundation Networking, and Linux Foundation Edge. Along with this, we have collaborators from academia, me, Nima, Ahmed, many people from our SIG is from academia. We have industry partners, IBM, many telco groups, and also open source communities. So currently we have four subgroups. One is inter-carrier settlements in the telecom world, who understand these kind of things is for OSS, PSS, and for billing things. And we have a solution brief on this as well. We have service level agreement as a one subgroups, Internet of Things, and blockchain defined networking. So today we talk about DIAM, which is decentralized identity and access management. So we wrote one white paper or solution brief in Internet of Things subgroups. So currently we have support from Linux Foundation from three different umbrella projects. We represent this SIG in various conferences like Open Networking Summit North America, Open Networking Summit Europe, or Open Source Summit in Los Angeles as well. Currently, we have two solution briefs or white papers. One is time for IoT networks and wholesale intercarrier settlements. And we have as a resource, we have Hyperledger Labs as well, in which we have some kind of smart contracts available, and it's open for anyone to see and contribute these kind of codes. Before I start, I want to give some introduction about identity and access management. So this identity and access management is like a securely managed, in this whole solution, we securely manage digital identities through various policies and tools. And the key tasks of this IAM is to authentication and authorization. So in the authentication, one can understand, like, for example, if user asks for enter, let's suppose in a website, if I enter my username and password, it goes to server and check whether this username password exists or not. If it verifies, it say yes, and if it is not, then say wrong username password. This kind of thing is basically authentication things. We go to authorization, it's like roles, what kind of roles we have, for example, in admin or editor. For example, if a user is admin or an editor, and if it is assigned editor privileges or not, if it is, it depends on the access control kind of things, ACL. So this is like a brief introduction about that what we do in IAM things. There are IAM functionalities, for example, user identities management. In IAM, for example, the example of this is like a LDAP or Microsoft Active Directory things. And other things, authenticating user is like a multi-factor authentication, like two-factor authentications, or adaptive authentication, depends on the roles. And in authorization, we check about the user access as needed to specify apps or resources based on user provisioning. And single sign-on is like without having to log in each time, remember many different passwords, just singly sign on, and that's enough. So And provisioning, deprovisioning users is what kind of RPEC we are giving, for example, rollback access control, what kind of access we are giving to administrator, editor, or viewer kind of thing. So this is like a basic functionalities what we do in identity and access management. If you talk about identity nowadays, the problem with this whole architecture is centralization. For example, in LDAP, it's a centralized database, or it's AD, it's a centralized database. So instead of this, nowadays we move to the decentralized identity, and there are some foundations and groups in decentralized identity and foundations. For example, DIF, which is Decentralized Identity Foundation, and W3C credentials. This is a community group. There are various working groups and foundations as well available. With Hyperledger, there are three main working groups: Indy, Ursa, and Eris. So currently we found out like what is the problem statement for this whole white paper is there is currently no robust industry grade IoT device management which currently exists. Also, these devices are exposed to risks such as identity theft and unauthorized manipulation of data, and also to how we can manage these same IDs at different locations, right? This is a more unsecure ways to sending these kind of IDs at different locations. So there's a trust issues, there is a validation, and a lot of other issues present in such kind of identity in the centralized identity structure. So in what we do in this SIG is like initially we draft some statements, problem statements, and then we send it to subgroups. For example, in our case, this we send it to the IoT subgroup, and then once we're ready with the paper, we send it to the special interest group, which is this is TC, Telecom Special Interest group. And then once we publish something, for example, in case of, in this case, for example, we publish the solution brief, and then in the next steps, what we do is like we send it to the working groups, for example, Hyperledger Indy, and then this Indy will go talk to, like Indy is currently working with a lot of standard organization, and then this goes to reference implementation. So as a draft, we call this as a reference model, and once it gets published kind of things stage, in that case, we call as a reference architecture. And at the last stage, we call this as a reference implementation. So after identification of these kind of problem statements, we wrote this solution brief, decentralized identity and access management for IoT networks. And as you can see in this diagram, that identity management contains three things: authentication, authorization, and accounting. And we have this architecture in which we have at the bottom layer, we have infrastructure layer. So we use Hyperledger Fabric at the base layer, like blockchain and distributed storage. For the storage, we talk about IPFS. And at the identity management, this is decentralized identifiers. We propose to use digital Indy project. And then at the authentication, we have peer-to-peer mutual authentication, and at the authorization, P2P access control. So this is like a basic 4-tier architecture that we propose. And Linux Foundation, IBM, and Telecom SIG, as a partner, we wrote this as a 4-layer architecture. So in this slide, as you can see this, we are working on this whole ecosystem for IoT using Hyperledger. So at the base layer, you can check out that, let's suppose if we have a smart home or a smart car or a driverless car or smart hospital or smart shower. At the base layer, it can be any IoT device. And these IoT devices are connected to multi-cloud management. So let's suppose if a company has 3 offices, and these 3 offices is connected to, let's suppose, 3 different public clouds. For example, it can be GCP, it can be AWS or Azure. In that case, if you can understand, this is a problem of trust as well, right? So to cover this, to make trust between these three different vendors, we can use blockchain, and at this layer we have orchestration and monitoring as well. Uh, so that after this layer, we send this data to the privacy and security layer. And if you can see on the left, this is a trusted IoT platform for telecom ecosystem. And above this, you can see that there's a governance model for blockchain, how these three different multi-cloud providers will talk to each other. And at this layer also, we can do some analytics through AI, and this connection service can be a module. Connection service module can be used to securely connect all these data stores. At the top layer, this is like a API management. Like once everything from bottom, from IoT device to the cloud, to the privacy layer, to the blockchain layer, now everything is like specific. We can expose a specific APIs with access permissions to the plug and play component. It can be like a trusted identity. It can be traceability engine or tokenization and anything. On the right side, we can understand like what we are doing is like a real-time service inventory. So for example, if let's suppose in a smart home, let's suppose new IoT device join, and in that case, this inventory is get updated. And in the telecom, what we are talking about is here is CNF, VNF lifecycle management. And this is like a virtual network function or a container or cloud native network functions. This is important to understand for the telecom domains. Is like we have slices, we have network slices for IoT devices, which contain low latency and high bandwidth kind of things. And to manage this whole life cycle management, management, we use these kind of network slices to connect end-to-end network of these IoT devices. So once we have this kind of network slice, we send it to the order management, where all the OSS BSS part can be done and understand what kind of things we want to add or remove. And then over the top, we can use some enterprise applications. So Nima, feel free to add something. Like this is a work of various community partners like Nima, Emma, and a lot of IBM guys. And if you want to add something, Nima, please feel free to add. Like, yeah, Nima, you want to add some stuff?
Yeah, hello. Thanks, Pip, and thanks for presenting the work. So just a note here that so this was mainly kind of a work around the proof of concept that IBM had developed. Although IBM has their own blockchain as a service platform, essentially, which is capable of hosting any kind of Hyperledger based, at least, project. It is also interesting to have a look. So this is the part that we kind of left off for really the future works of the telecom SIG, and that's the scalability of these solutions. So one of the ways that we would kind of address the scalability issue here is using the IPFS, which will kind of help to a certain extent if you want to, let's say, post certain documents that are big in file size, let's say a proof of identity of any sort for an owner of an IoT device or an IoT device itself. So you can keep those in a distributed off-chain way, but it's still distributed using IPFS. So that will really help you to improve the scalability and improve the speed of transactions and cost of transactions as well. So that's the part that I just wanted to add here. I thought it's a little bit missing from the slides.
Yeah, thanks, Nima. I think Ahmed is also on the call. So Ahmed, you want to add some stuff over this? So Ahmed is also a, a, a member for writing this paper.
Yeah, nothing to add, Vibin. Yeah, just
Yep,
maybe
thanks.
highlighting that
Yep.
the importance of the use of decentralized identity in enabling the other layers, which is the authentication and authorization. And that was maybe the essence of starting this work.
Yeah. So in the next slide, as you can see that we have this digital identity as a layer over this whole uh, whole uh, whole modules. For example, let's suppose we have a CSP in the dotted box. So at the base layer again we have it can be a VNF like a virtual network function, or it can be a Wi-Fi device, or smart watch or a smart home. So at the base layer, it is like a connection of various as the name suggests, decentralized identity and access management network. So we are talking about network here, for example, and these different networks are connecting to one orchestration layer. This orchestrator is responsible for resource provisioning, inventory, and topology structure kind of things. Um, and from over and this orchestration layer directly is connected to one Hyperledger node, and this Hyperledger node is used to manage this whole like as a single source of truth. And this also talks to billing, CRM, and other modules in the CSP. um, those who don't understand CSP is like a telecom operator, or it can be anyone, right? On the right side, as you can see that this is important, that how IoT device manufacturer is also running on Hyperledger node. So this Hyperledger node is used to note down all the unique numbers of UI of IoT devices. And then there's also a user interface for this IoT device manufacturer, so that they can enter or they can interact with this Hyperledger node. And this system of records will talk to other Hyperledger nodes in this whole network. So, for example, one of the other node is a CSP, and it can be CSP 1, 2, 3, and anyone who wants to participate in this private network. And at the top, you can see there are smart contracts running for various activities, for various management of all these IAM kind of things. And also there is a XNF, like in telecom, we call this as a network functions. It can be CNF, VNF, and anything. So these VNF, these kind of suppliers will use these kind of system records to understand which IoT device is containing what code, so that they can map in the future. And there's also user interface through which customer, partner, administrator can connect and can see that what kind of network devices is registered on this whole private network. On the left side, we have a digital identity for every IoT device, and these are also protected with security and integrity over the top. And this order management again connecting to the how we are using these APIs to expose to the customer, partner, and administrator. So this is the model that we talk about, like how different IoT devices can be connected to the one digital identity and other Hyperledger stuff. So at the Hyperledger node, we propose to use Hyperledger Fabric, and at this digital identity, we propose to use digital identity. Hyperledger Indy. Yeah, so this is the main architecture. And Nima, again, you want to add something, or Ahmed, you want to add?
No, nothing in particular, Vipin.
Yeah, if someone has questions over it, so please feel free to ask as well. This is like our first reference model right now, and we will build. We will take some inputs from the communities, and then we will improve it further as well. So this is how you can involve as well, like how to involve this Hyperledger Telecom SIG. We have bi-weekly calls as well. But if as you can see this, I also want to show that this paper that I also shared this link on the chat. You can read this whole paper, because at the bottom we also talked about what you can use in your smart contracts, for example, who will be the participants in this whole system, for example, cloud providers, CSP, OEM or VNF providers. And then what will be the key assets on this whole blockchain model? You can find a lot of details in this white paper. We have defined everything like logical component, physical order, licenses, and everything. And what transactions field contain, you can find these things as well. Depend on the use case. For example, if it is a CSP or some other use case, like it's for telecoms things and for the 5G things. So this is the white paper we have. You can go through this white paper, and if you have some suggestions, some comments, because again, this is a community effort. This is we are collaborating like every bi-weekly and writing these papers so that we can understand better and we can make some standards around these things. So yeah, this is our paper, decentralized identity and access management. So also we have paper on wholesale intercarrier settlements. This is again, if someone is interested in like using these things, we have a whole architecture at the bottom. That why I want to show this, because this is also related to IoT things. For example, this OSS BSS can be managed through for these IoT M2M devices as well. So you can use this. Again, we used a good reference architecture for this as well, that how you can use Hyperledger Fabric at the SDK and the middle layer, and at the top, at the bottom, what channels you and what actors you need to deploy these contracts. And this is our main wiki, Hyperledger Telecom SIG. If you are interested, please join. It's open to all. And if you have comments, if you want to add some things, please feel free to do that. And you can also propose something. For example, this whole paper was proposed initially by Ahmed, and we initially started with IMIDB and go through all these things and finally reach to this white paper. Thanks to all our community members to contribute on this. And yeah, Ahmed or Nima, if you have some comments, please.
Yeah, just to add to what Vipin mentioned about the membership in Telecom SIG. So this latest solution brief that we had was a joint work between more than 10 people, really from different companies and from different even academic partners and so on. So usually the way it works, so if you have a problem in your company or in your university that you are currently trying to solve, that's really the best practice. So you can bring up this problem with us and kind of give us a proposal regarding what you're trying to solve, and then we can actually suggest how we can help you. We could put together a group and try to work on your problem, and you'll benefit from the community that we've built around telecom, and a big part of it really the IoT community that is also very related to the MOBI community. Yeah, so that's the part. I guess we are open for questions now.
Yeah, if I may just add, Nima, so one of the things that when we started this, as Vibin highlighted, it was merely decentralized identity as a foundation layer. But we know that on top of that, we can build other layers, and among that, even reaching to the application layer, where data that's generated by these IoT devices need to be verified in terms of their authenticity. And one possible example is the use of this decentralized identity model to build IoT data provenance. And I just come to know that the MOBI initiative have I think something similar to this. So would like maybe to learn more on from the MOBI initiative team on their effort regarding utilization of decentralized identity for the IoT data provenance, which will link between this identity and how we can generate proofs on and others to verify um, um, the data generated is authentic, it was generated by this device or by the owner of this device, and going forward, even the monetization of that data that gets generated. Yeah.
Yes, thanks, Ahmad, for the comment. Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely correct. I mean, then in the data area, blockchain has plenty of potential, especially if there is mention of monetization, kind of cryptocurrencies always come into mind. Not necessarily the kind of famous cryptocurrencies that we all know, and they're being traded, and they're quite hot topics at the moment, but merely just tokens that could be built upon any blockchain network, really. So even on Hyperledger Fabric, that is a kind of a uh, smaller scale blockchain platform. We used to have Fabcoin that was kind of initially designed for a use case of Hyperledger Fabric, which is essentially a kind of token that allows these partners, these kind of stakeholders of this blockchain network to exchange value. Yeah, that's the part.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's true. And yeah, please.
There is a question. Early on, you showed the telecom ecosystem as an example. Are you working with any specific telecom groups or consortiums?
So yeah, for example, tomorrow we have a talk from GSMA. So we are working with a lot of telecom operators. Means as a suggestions, they added some points, like you can add something. So currently we are looking into some standard bodies as well, like for example GSMA. So not as such, but this is like a main contribution done by IBM. So they already implemented this. They did some POCs. So yeah. So currently this is IBM kind of things for telco things. But yes, we are looking into this implementation as well. So yeah. So after verifying everything in this white paper, we will move to the Hyperledger Labs, where we will add more smart contracts, and then other telecom operators can also join and something like this.
Mhm. Thank you.
Like Drew Tatarian.
Are there any other questions for Vipin, Nima, Ahmed?
Yeah, hi, this is Sumit here. I was just kind of passed this on by Chris Kersey to kind of attend today's call, but I heard the name IBM, and I was just curious, is there anything that's needed from our side to kind of support this process and be a part of it? And sorry, I was also having like a parallel call going on at the same time, so it is kind of difficult to keep track, but I just wanted to ensure that I'm not missing anything or any activities that are needed to be done from our side.
So from IBM side, I think Matthews and Aman is already contributing some stuff. Yeah. And once we finalize everything, then if we can do some kind of POCs as well, so that we can present it somewhere, like for example, to other standard organizations or something, or if we can work around more in terms of reference architecture to improving these things, for example, adding or removing some comments, yeah, that will be really helpful.
Okay, sure. So do I need to pass on any information at this point in time to any of the team members that you listed out here, or they're already in sync with you on that?
I think Matthews and Aman is already part of this, so not sure that means.
Okay, then that's fine. I mean, if you're already having those discussions, then that's okay. I just want to ensure that there's nothing missing out on our side.
Yeah, cool.
Can I make a statement here?
Yep.
So
Please.
my company has has put out a press release in late March for the integration of cellular IoT with Hyperledger, for the integration of cellular IoT with a blockchain. We've partnered with Telefonica of Spain with their Trust OS and their module called Trust ID, which is decentralized identity. And we have delivered a proof of concept, and we released a press release. Does anybody in this SIG know this information? Because in my mind, this is very, very important. Does anybody know this? My name is Carl Weaver. I work for ITOS.io. Does anybody know about this press release?
Not me.
That would bother me. That would bother me if your organization doesn't know the significant contribution that we've just made to your telecom, to the Telecom SIG. So that kind of bothers me, guys. I'll jump back off, okay?
Sure, you can, if you're interested, you can join, and we have a call tomorrow.
I have been attending your SIGs for the past 6-7 months. So yeah. Why don't you?
So Carl, this isn't the forum.
All right. But yeah,
you should contact VIP and the SIG group separately.
I have tried. Okay, I'm getting out. I'm getting off. I'll just.
Thanks.
Thanks, Chris. Does anyone else have questions? I have one here coming through from Manoj. Any efforts going on to bring in Hyperledger Indy into Hyperledger Fabric as identity layer in this project?
Not in this project. As I showed this, that our plan is like our flow looked like this. So we are planning to for this flow, like for example, this is a draft subgroup Telecom. So this is a special interest group. So next step is to push it to the working group. So next step is to push it to the Hyperledger Indy and Hyperledger Fabric, so that we get some inputs from working groups. And once we get inputs from working group, then at that stage only we will take these initiatives of implementing in India and Fabric things. But currently, no. Yeah.
Thank you.
May I ask a question? My name is Anusha, and I'm just wondering if you could elaborate more on the data marketplace aspect of the setup and how Hyperledger would be helping like in solving those challenges in designing that marketplace. Thank you.
Yeah. So I think. So I'm talking about this plug and play components, like more on this side.
Yes.
Yeah. So the thing is, like once we have like different domains, we collect this data to the orchestration layer and passing it to the blockchain to bring more trust in this multiple parties. And after this, if you can see that with the permissions, we can expose some APIs above this layer, so that so that if someone wants to use such kind of things, for example, if I want to trust this identity, right, this IoT device, so we need a layer, a layer through which we can identify, like we can provide authenticity to these kind of DIDs, right? So in that case, these IoT device can be exposed with a layer of integrity, security, and privacy, and then at the last, we can expose these APIs to different parties, whether it's a traceability engine, whether you want to use this for tokenization or some supply chain kind of thing. So that's the idea. And this is, again, this is a community effort. So everyone was sitting and discussing these layers. So if you think that, okay, we can add some things over it, please feel free to do that, because this is, again, this is, we are trying to build a reference architecture so that everyone can use it. So this is our idea at that time, that once we have a trusted blockchain architecture, over that we can expose our APIs to any marketplace. So yeah, that was the idea. Or Nima, you want to add, or Ahmed, on this question?
Just to add something there. So just to make sure there's no confusion here. So when we talk about the telecom SIG or any other SIG, there is a feedback loop between the SIGs and the core developers of Hyperledger products, such as Fabric and the rest of the products. But the main idea of these SIGs is to actually look into the use cases of those products. So okay, so we might look into certain reference architectures or certain use cases and realize, okay, so there's some issues with using Fabric for this particular use case, and we can give feedback to the working groups of Hyperledger, and they would probably consider fixing it. But the main idea here is not really developing the products themselves. It's developing use cases and reference architectures and solutions based on those, well, community-driven solutions based on those products. That's the part I wanted to add.
I think I understand that, and it's just like, if I want to evaluate or consider what features the platform on which it would be developed, like for example, what would be the reason for using Hyperledger, or like what platform would be useful, like when it comes to actually building it. I know this is like an idea stage, but if I have to think about what are the problems that would need to be addressed by the platform itself, can you just talk a little bit about?
Yeah, this is not exactly just an idea. So if you go to the bottom of the white paper, so this kind of reference architecture was used by IBM for two of their use cases, not necessarily the telecom, a little bit more at the bottom, Vipin. Yeah, so this is the food trust and trade lens. So these were the two kind of customers of IBM who used this reference architecture for their solutions. And essentially, when it comes to choosing the products of Hyperledger, or even kind of if you want to use Ethereum maybe for some of your use cases, it really comes down to the options that each one of these products will provide for you. And that includes, so we have the advantages of Hyperledger Fabric here. So one of the reasons that we use Hyperledger Fabric is the kind of the easy setup that it has, and it is also already built into most of the cloud providers kind of repositories as a solution. And the rest of the reasons here are clear. Again, another reason is that it's similar to not like Ethereum. With Hyperledger Fabric, there's a wider choice of languages you can use for smart contracts, for example. Or again, so it very much depends on exactly your use case. But this is a kind of a market research, to be honest, at the very earliest stages, but it is very dependent on your use case. So that's a kind of a research that you have to do.
Yeah, for I want to add, like for example, in identity case as well, like we have a different decentralized identity like platforms available, right? But that's my understanding is like most of the time, like when different subgroups, different foundation or different standard organization develop something, so some foundation also need to implement these things. So what we found is like most of the case, not only in Hyperledger, Linux Foundation Networking, Linux Foundation Edge or something, they implement in terms of code with industry partners. So of course we are not saying this Hyperledger is the best solution, but yeah, this is in our understanding, it is like a good candidate to choose out. But of course, it depends on the use case, as Nima said, and you can use Ethereum or other private blockchain as well. Or if it is a use case of IoT, then IOTA, maybe other blockchains, but all depends on the use case as well.
Yeah, thank you so much. But I'm just kind of like, I think maybe this is an open question, but I think verification of transaction and digital identity, they're not trivial problems. I was just curious about how Hyperledger is kind of addressing those problems. But yeah, maybe I can reach out some other time and discuss in detail about that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. And yeah, scalability is again all the time, all blockchain facing some issues with the scalability and layer 2 solutions for the blockchains, even if it's public or private. But again, yeah, if it depends on the number of transactions and a lot of other factors, yeah. Please feel free to reach out to us in our calls, and we can discuss more over this. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
This is Chris. Maybe a bit of a comment, a bit of a question. So thanks guys for the presentation and for your time today. The reason that MOBI was interested in having you guys present and interested in the white paper is that we see a very rapid convergence between our ecosystem and yours. We have roaming devices just like you do. Yours are smartphones, or the telecom industry has smartphones, and we have vehicles. Both are moving around, joining ad hoc networks, communicating with other devices and infrastructure. And that is, both of those are inherently decentralized networks operating at the edge. And we are also building a permissioned network for our community. We have a very similar architecture to you. We have a very similar problem in the way we think about it in terms of shared services of governments, identity, authority, and assurance. So exactly the same shared services. And we look forward to and we're also, at least the current version of it is built in Hyperledger Fabric and Aries. So we look forward to collaborating with you guys. I think there's probably a lot of components that we'd be able to share. Thank you.
Yeah,
thanks. Yeah, so I mean, again, it's when it comes to mobile networks or essentially kind of vehicular networks and so on, the issue is even more interesting because now you have moving objects, and you have to also consider kind of a there's more requirement in terms of the network that you using which you connect these IoT devices to the blockchain nodes. It makes it more interesting. Again, so would MOBI be more interested in actually the kind of work we did here, which is really understanding and trying to break down what a solution would look like for IoT problems, or is it more that you guys progressed further and you actually want to see how realistically these networks could be deployed. For instance, kind of the architectures that you would have your blockchain nodes distributed among your in your network, and how close you want them to be to the edge, or is it just you want to have a smaller number of nodes to keep the transaction latency low? So these are really the things that we want to look into, but uh, we've, at least in the previous work, we've focused on really understanding the solution.
Yeah, I want to add as well, like in these ad hoc networks, and when you add edge as well, so it's really interesting how these, because in that case we have to add one more layer, like edge, and then it's sent to the cloud structure. So orchestration at the top, and we have, like in this case, we need a middle layers as well, and yeah, that will be really interesting. Then I don't know whether you guys you're using DIDs in such case or not, but yeah, as such, if you see that, means it depends on the use case where you are using these things. Yeah, if feel free to reach out in our community calls, and yeah, we can see that how we can help.
I've started to attend the SIG, and we're in contact with David Boswell and Hyperledger itself, of course. So, thank you.
Chris, may I ask? So I highlighted earlier that one of the things that we can build on this decentralized identity model is the data provenance and data authenticity. And I think, guys, you are also tackling that issue, and would like to learn more on what's your view there and what you are planning maybe to build on top of the a blockchain network with decentralized identity.
Yeah. So we're in the process of deciding, what goes on chain, what goes off chain. A lot of the data itself, of course, would be off chain. The function of the network is to create the provenance and the trust around the data that might be off chain. The specific architecture of that and how we might collaborate on that, we should probably have a deeper dive call into to compare our architecture and yours and see where there's overlap and where the differences are.
Are you planning to use also the W3C verifiable credential approach for?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah, we actually have a white paper on our website about it, and then a much more detailed technical specification, which isn't on our website but is available to members.
Okay. Would you be able to share that link with us here in the chat if possible? So.
Yeah, it's just the MOBI website. Yeah, okay. Annabelle, if you could put that up. Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks, I'll put that up. Any other questions?
Just to mention, for those of you who would like to join the meetings, the next meeting is actually tomorrow. So if you want to join, I mean, this is the address of the network, and we can also kind of put the link up there in the chat. So yeah, we'll be happy to have new members.
We have tomorrow call from GSMA guys. So this telecom things with the DLT will work out. So if you're interested in joining this, please feel free to join.
Thank you.
Yeah, cool.
So a quick question here again, do you have IBM as a part of this discussions there? Because there's some similar solution, which I think some of my team members have worked on, Cineverse, for universal commerce. And I saw kind of a note out there, inter-carrier settlements and stuff like that. So I'm just kind of curious to know if IBM is part of these discussions as well or not.
This is main part was contributed by Subex, and although IBM was part of it, but yeah, IBM contributed to this as well. But yeah, most of the things was delivered by I forget. Who did this. Yeah, IBM was part of it. Like, I think Sane contributed most of the things in it, but yeah, some of the things like this diagram, I think, was contributed by IBM. But if you have something to add, please feel free to do that. Yeah, we have versions in these white papers, and we have we are planning to use this structure as well. Like after we log things, then we will propose it to the working groups and then implementation part as well.
Okay, so you would be the person to be coordinating this with, right? Especially with
Yeah,
regards-
you can talk to me, David, or Ahmed, Anima, anyone. Yeah, feel free to call anyone or something. Yeah, we have all the details available at this website as well, on this wiki page. You can coordinate with anyone. It's open.
Yeah, put the link up there.
Yes. So yeah, IBM Matthews is here. So yeah, just.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
I have one last general question by a relative newbie. How much, if any, work is being done on making a public blockchain which is made private through zero knowledge proofs?
Well, let's put it this way. So really, the zero knowledge proof doesn't solve the issue of, so the permission blockchains or private blockchains, as some people refer to them. The difference between public blockchain and them is that they're not accessible, whether either to write or read from by the general public, right? So what zero knowledge proof does is that it allows access to a certain translation of data using kind of the private access that is given. Let's say you cannot see when I was born, but you can see whether if you're kind of a you're giving certain services that requires me to be over 21 years old, for example, you can check whether if I am or not using, let's say, remaining in the context of identity here. Or similarly in vehicles and so on. But it's still, if you are using a public blockchain as the base for it, there's still the chance that the anonymous users can actually join the network and cause the issues that are always there with the public blockchains, right? But those don't exist in permission blockchains, because actually to join these networks, you need to be identified and authenticated by the rest of the members.
Thank you. Niels, I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, sorry. So I think I'm a relative newbie to kind of the Hyperledger infrastructure and everything. But yeah, the ZKP is a particular area of interest. And what about I mean, proxies for identity? Is that something that you work with?
No, not necessarily. No, not at least not in this work. We haven't.
Okay, thanks.
All right.
Also, I want to add like confidentiality. There are two things: privacy, confidentiality. Also, one part, and yeah, now you have bulletproof protocols and other things also you can consider. But this is a difference. Like in private blockchain, I think it's not needed even. I hope so, right?
Okay, thanks for the clarification.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. I think we can say thank you to our speakers. Vipin, Nima, thanks for your time. It was a great presentation and great conversation. Thanks everyone for attending. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.